try not to be too reactive to the chat. But yeah, if I don't have too much to talk about, then I will. But someone commented that these shapes kind of remind them of Atlantis, which is pretty cool. I didn't consciously. I think I just left them a little bit like more geometric and harder. But that's a cool kind of shape language that maybe I'll try and try something with at some point. It's pretty much just an accident that I didn't clean up, but I'll say it was intentional. Just add in a little bit of color, I think, like color variation. And I wanted to get, I think I'm going to start playing with like the color temperature of the shadows as well. Yeah, at some point I thought I was going to make it like a snowy scene. And so I wanted to like cool the background and then make the shadows like warmer and just have that like nice contrast. Yeah, happy accidents are good, but you don't want to keep painting mindlessly and just hoping for like happy accidents, right? Like it's nice when they happen and you want to kind of, oh, that was cool, spontaneous thing. I'll try and keep that. But yeah, you don't want to just rely on them. It's good to have some kind of process, as I've talked about at length last time. Yeah, hopefully you can see the kind of similarities between the process for doing the studies yesterday, the studies last week, and the process for this that is pretty similar. I would say. Just getting some cool light. I've masked off my shadows and I'm going super warm. I think this is pretty cool actually. And maybe I should have kept it, but I wasn't as bold as that. Those really nice oranges, I made it a lot more subtle. If I was a braver man, I would have kept the shadows pure orange. But that'd be fun to experiment with. I'm doing some occlusion here and just doing another shadow pass to kind of increase that, just increase the contrast overall. Just thinking about, okay, where's the light hitting? Going in, boosting the light now, I think. I'm just going to slow it down a little bit where I talk about questions from Eduardo. Is your thinking or mindset about stylizing a tree different from stylizing an animal or a human portrait? Yeah, I think so, because they're so different. And I think it's about like the traits that are available to you that you're playing with, right? So stylizing a tree, there's different elements at play and there's different qualities that you can exaggerate, but you're still, I guess the underlying principle is kind of similar, right? You're still looking for a character, you're looking for some kind of like interest in there, and you're simplifying it. You're simplifying down details, and then exaggerating different things, right? That's the underlying thinking and underlying kind of motivation. But yeah, it's just what you have to play with is going to be so different as well. Like you can get gesture in a tree, but it's going to feel a little bit more forced maybe than if you're, doing gesture drawings of of humans in like all these dynamic poses, right? But yeah, it's an interesting thing when you're taking the static kind of objects, well, trees is kind of static, but you're trying to give it that sense of movement and character, and that's the cool challenge. So yeah, I guess there's similarities and there's differences, but it's not like from the ground up I'm just thinking in a whole different headspace. It's there are definitely like shared principles, and there's going to be little shortcuts as well, like um the way I think about simplifying eyes, for example. That's kind of just a habit that you build up, and it, almost like a shortcut, a visual shortcut. And you don't want to, again, you don't want to rely on those too much, but I guess a visual shortcut for these trees would be those little like pockets of shadow and the ambient occlusion, and it comes from somewhere. But when you repeatedly paint the same thing over and over again, you start to build um, these little shortcuts, if that makes sense. Um, these little habits. So each painting, you're not kind of going in super fresh, right? I'm using my prior experience in painting trees with this. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of setting the scene a little bit here, just doing some dressing, making it look fancy. Maybe they're in the clouds or something, but I don't want to turn it too much into an actual illustration. I still want to make it um, keep it pretty simple. Um, Add in a bit of occlusion around the base, kind of makes it feel more grounded. Um, just cast shadows. I really think cast shadows are important and help give a sense of believability, because it's objects interacting with each other, right? And kind of the closer they are, closer they're touching, um, the darker, the less light is gonna reach in there, little crevices. So um, yeah, at this point I'm playing around with maybe I'm gonna put some background elements in there again, like if I just add these more of these mounds, that's another element that I'm gonna have to balance and um, make it look good. So I kind of forget that a little bit. Um, I kind of like how this looks, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I think maybe I prefer just the white background, but there's something about this like gradient that I've discovered that I'm like, oh, that kind of makes it pop a little bit more. Um, so I keep it, but yeah. I play around with brushes a little bit here, and I think I actually end up removing a lot of this texture stuff in the final one. I think it just kind of spoils it a little bit, and maybe it could look more believable, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm just using like a different brush. I don't know, just experimenting and not really enjoying it. I'll speed it up now. I think we're almost there. Yeah, all these noisy bits in the foliage, they could work, but I think I dropped them. What I do include though, kind of little bits of light coming through the canopies in the foliage, and I think they end up working pretty well. That's like one of the last things I add. Is it snowing? Nope, it is not snowing. Ah, clouds. That could be cool. So this whole thing, yeah, it's an hour 20. Um, playing around with adding some birds for scale. I think they're distracting, so I remove them. Oh yeah, and then I add some just lines on the trunk for a little bit more detail. I think they look nice. It's not it's not that distracting, and it adds a little bit of scale. Uh, yeah, maybe I'll discuss scale at some point. Yeah, so here's where I kind of punch through a little bit, um, make little pockets where you can see the other side. Um, I don't want to overdo it. I think just a few kind of makes it add some depth, I think, and believability. And yeah, that's pretty much the painting. Um, so this was, as you saw, the starting point, and this with some notes is where we got to. Um, so I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Um, you know, not perfect, some rough kind of areas, but yeah, works pretty well, I think. So just a summary of a couple of the thoughts that I had. Each tree has a slightly unique shape language to them. The angles of the roots tighten and they get smaller. Talk about that in a second. The detail distribution is uneven, creating a bit of visual interest. We have larger areas of rest and smaller clusters of detail. This isn't like a strict thing, but it's again one of those kind of subconscious things that I'm that I'm doing here. And the foliage is roughly equal in proportion to the body, but the proportions within the smaller forms are a bit less evenly distributed. And then I'm using a softer kind of hazier edge to describe the material difference between the foliage and the trunk. So yeah, these kind of notes that I've made here. I just want to talk a little bit in terms of like the proportion. It's pretty stable, right? Like, so if we look at them, like, okay, you've got, let's say it's kind of 50-50, um same for here. It's pretty equal. And then this one, he's got more of a taller kind of body here. And that's just, I think it's a part of the bonsai that I'm just kind of like, if you look at a lot of bonsai, I feel like that distribution is pretty much there. And maybe it's a thing where I'm like, oh, okay, that's just how bonsai look, right? And I'm not super conscious of it. And then this one, obviously, I've kind of pushed it up a little bit, just out of necessity. And I'll talk a little bit about these repeated shapes. So you can kind of see what's going on here, where we're getting this like S curve, and it's coming through, and then you've got another one following the shadow. It's coming through here. You've got another one here, and you've got this one here, and yeah, it's a nice satisfying repetition of the shape, and then it kind of keeps going, and it gets smaller, and well, this doesn't really work. Yeah, it gets smaller here. So it creates this nice like flow where 70%, let's say, is this long kind of thing, and then as it gets into the last 30%, it starts to tighten, right? And it'd be different if they were both equally, spaced. That would look a little bit more static and maybe less interesting. But I'm also playing into the idea that they are roots, right? And naturally, it's not something that I'm just imposing onto the painting. Roots and branches, they naturally divide and split off, and it's something that we find in nature, where yeah, things get naturally divided up into these ratios. So yeah, just kind of like following the principles there and using that to my advantage a little bit. And what did I write here? Again, it's this kind of repeating. There's always a thing when you just draw random shapes over, this whole thing. These aren't random. These are there, I'm pretty sure. So I'm trying to yeah, again, it's getting kind of exponentially taller. And it's not a hard rule, it's just a kind of a subconscious thing. I keep saying that. But the distribution isn't completely even. It's yeah, and the same goes for this one. So you have this nice shape getting smaller, and then you've got a big one here, and yeah, and then it kind of like flips that side as well. So yeah, just thought those were some cool things to think about. Maybe I could have done more, been a bit more conscious of it. Here, I think in the foliage, I'm thinking more in terms of like they're like big masses with like smaller masses attached. So again, it would be a lot more static and boring if all of these were like the same size, right? Like if they were all like this, it'd be a very different kind of painting. But wanted these bigger forms, and then they get kind of smaller. And these are pretty even, but maybe these could be little forms. And so yeah, kind of grouping them a little bit, but I think I could have maybe done a bit of a better job with that. And these forms as well, these share that kind of curve to them. These are a little bit more boxy, and this is somewhere in between, I guess. But yeah, that's it for the tree demo. Hope you enjoyed that segment. So I think we can take a little bit of a break. Maybe any questions? Just a quick refresher of what we're talking about, right? So think of foliage in terms of these simplified forms. Try and visualize them as these balls and spheres and cylinders, cones. Cones is probably good. There's the pine tree. That's basically a cone, right? And then when you add complexity and that breakup for the edges, again, a lot of the internal detail is pretty simple, but we don't want to be too noisy and distracting and all that kind of stuff, right? So we want to keep it simple and then just add it in the pockets where we want. More complex forms, I guess. Like this tree I'm not super happy with, but yeah, they're these kind of like dome shapes. And here we're seeing the underside of the one. So the light's hitting and the light's not hitting in here. And yeah, that's it. So I'll just I think we'll take a little bit of a break. I think from maybe we can reconvene. We'll have a slightly longer break if that's all right. And we can come back 6:30. So yeah, that's in like 17 minutes. That's okay. Thanks, guys.